Face to face, hand to hand, film to film.
Welcome to another episode of Film to Film. With this lovely week, I think this is Oscar weekend. My name is Iñaki Linier. I'm here with my good old friend, James Shergan. How you doing, James?
I'm doing well. I didn't even realize it's Oscar weekend, but I think you're right. I don't even know who the favorite is this year, so looking forward to seeing that. I'm about halfway through West Side Story with my wife.
Oh, is it good?
Yeah. It's a well-made film. Musicals aren't necessarily my thing, but I mean, I think Spielberg definitely knows how to direct a film, so I think there's some interesting stuff. I can't say that I absolutely love it, though.
I see. So today we're gonna be talking about two Oscar films and one that there was no way it's ever gonna make it into the Oscars. But yeah, I guess the reason I chose this is because the Oscars once again nominated a South American related film into the animated stuff. Of course, I'm talking about Encanto.
Yeah, I have not even seen Encanto, but that's Mexican. I assumed.
No, it's Disney and it's about Colombia. That's why I was very clear.
It is South American.
Yeah,
okay.
It is South American.
Right.
Yeah, no, okay. It's not like Coco. Either way, good film. We're not talking about that. That was me just joking around. We are talking about Chilean films, and they are all animated. They are animated shorts, well, except for the last one. I think this is the first time we've ever done animated films.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's right. I don't think I'd ever pick one, and I don't think you picked one yet. So
no, yeah. So this is not our expertise. We don't watch that many animated movies. I don't think we've ever watched animated movies together.
No, it's usually not my first choice on stuff to watch. Not that I hate them, it's just not necessarily my go-to space.
Yeah, I mean, one could say that Tetsuo, which we did watch together, that's sort of an animated film.
It's got some claymation to it. It certainly has some aspects to it. Yeah, it's almost like half animated. Such a weird. That's a film that I should rewatch. I don't think I've seen that since I saw it with you, which is over probably a decade ago. So.
I guess that's some stop motion in there. There's some stop motion also in Eraserhead. I don't know if we watched that together, but
I don't think we watched that together. No.
Okay. I'm bringing those up because I want to set up the mood. We're gonna go from probably simple, easy, and approachable down to, the Eraserhead Tetsuo level of weirdness. Or do you agree with that?
I don't think it's quite on the weirdness level of Tetsuo, but it is certainly dark. I mean, I do think that in North America, especially in U.S. and Western culture, I think animation probably has more of an association with like being like family friendly. And in my limited experience with international animation, that's certainly not the case, and certainly not with the Chilean animation that I've seen.
Well, the first one, which is Bear Story.
Sure.
I think that one would fall within. If you don't read onto the background of the movie, this one could easily be a children's short.
It's certainly the closest of the three.
All right, so I'll jump into Bear Story.
All right.
So this is quick summary. I think I got it from IMDb. It's an old lonesome bear tells the story of his life through a mechanical diorama.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah, I think. This film was directed by Gabriel Osorio Vargas. The screenplay was by Daniel Castro. Cinematography, I think, was by both. The edit was from Pato Escala Pierart. Music by Denver. I don't know who that is. Producer by Teo Diaz. Or I think it was Teo Diaz. Oh, no, that's another movie. Okay. But and the production company was Punk Robot, which is a Chilean animation production company. They mainly do commercials. So yeah, what were your thoughts about this film?
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, it was definitely the simplest, the purest, and definitely the most family friendly of all of them. I think this one may be the bear that's like having kids drop in coins and see his diorama. I'm sure he gets 1 in 7 of the Yelp reviews are like moms that are angry of that he's showing something that kind of shows this dark side of Chilean history. But that being said, it has a certain tone that's a lot more kind, and I don't even know if you necessarily need to know that part of Chilean history, although it certainly adds a lot if you do know that part. But yeah, it's effective. I just loaded up the Wikipedia here. I see it won a ton of awards in the festival circuit, as well as the Academy Award there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton to say here other than, like, it's a very simple, pure story that's well told.
Yeah, I guess I should have introduced the audience. So all 3 movies have something in common beyond being Chilean. They all touch a little. They all touch a little bit of Chile's dark history with its dictatorship, but not. Well, I guess the second one is probably the most explicit, but none of them are that explicit about it. If you don't know anything about the history of Chile, you can still get something out of it, in my opinion. It makes something richer. So, and the summary here for the Bear story is interesting. I think what Bear Story does really well, in my opinion, is giving you the emotion of loss. This is a film, or this short is. If we go into quality of animation, it's actually not the best quality of animation, in my opinion, for 2014.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, they're probably working with a little bit lower budget. I think it's probably the most conventional of these 3 in terms of like visual animation. But I think it's reasonably visually creative for its short time.
Yeah, and I think so. One part that I like is because we see the entire story in a diorama, which are made with mechanical toys. It gets to excuse maybe the quality too, because in diorama it's like, okay, I'm not seeing real bears. I'm not seeing, we're not expecting realism.
Right. Fair enough. That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, what I like about this story is that it does do in 10 minutes. It does a really good job at not so much showing you anything dictatorship related. I mean, I was reading different articles and different reviews about this. Some folks didn't even look into the history when writing the reviews and thought it was like an environmentalist or anti-circus film.
Huh.
And which definitely. I mean, there's this sort of a story, of a bear family that's broken up by a circus. Circus comes in. You got a bunch of faceless goons who like go into people's apartments and take people away, animals' apartments. And take animals away, including the dad. So yeah, it could be viewed as an anti-circus film. Which,
yeah, I mean, much like Nightmare Alley by Guillermo del Toro in this past year too.
I have not seen that one yet.
It's a good movie. I'm usually a little lukewarm on Del Toro, but I'd say this is one of his better ones. Anyways, that's a sidetrack.
No, yeah. I guess, but yeah, if you know the actual history, obviously this is an allegory on the bear being a person taken by the dictatorship and the family broken. And
yeah, and it's a pretty direct one too. I mean, yeah,
it is very direct.
Yeah,
and also what's kind of interesting about this is that the film ends with a happy end, or seems like it ends with a happy ending. The diorama definitely has a happy ending, but and I'm curious if a child watches this versus an adult. The ending is not necessarily happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's not. It does remind me of a lot of anime films that sort of have like this bittersweet ending. Not anime, sorry, animated films. That tend to be. Because a lot of those films, you might think of them as very family friendly, and they are, but a lot of them deal with stuff like loss and grief of family members and stuff like that. So I do feel like they often end on a happier note, but there's still kind of like those past tragedies and stuff that happen. In that sense, I think Bear Story kind of fits into that sort of mode of emotional resonance.
Yeah, you're right. We all can remember Lion King, and how most children cried when the dad dies. So yeah, that's true. That's true. I guess the other thing about this is, as being a Chilean film, they did put some humor in the horror, and even though there's not a direct horror, because this definitely feels more directed to children. Do you notice when the cops grabbed the giraffe? I don't know if you chuckled or not with that.
Oh, no, I don't recall.
So, you have the cops going into the building, and everything is somewhat abstract. So you see the lights turning on, and you see an animal, and the cops hit them, and then grabs them. And then when they get into the giraffe, they try to hit the giraffe, but they only see the butt because giraffe is its head is on the upper floor, so they have to go on the upper floor to hit her head.
Oh yeah, no, I did do that. I guess I maybe chuckled at that, but I was like, oh, that's at least a little visually creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and they beat the shit out of the main character in that scene. Again, you don't see any pain or anyone screaming, but
yeah.
It's very child friendly the way it's portrayed, which I always find interesting. Like all the hits make a sound.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why the animated films can largely get away with kind of showing like very tragic stuff. It's like, I don't know, there's something about like the visuals of it that if you show it a certain way, it kind of mutes the impact to some extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, definitely. And but yeah, so what would you? For a short, what would you rate it?
I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah, solid.
Anything else you'd like to add for that?
No, not really. Yeah, a very simple one. So I don't have. This is probably the one I have the least to say about.
Yeah, that's just what too. I give it an 8. I think it's the way that it's able to tell a very sad story in a creative and abstract way that is palatable for all ages. I think I give it a kudos for that, so I give it an 8.
Okay, fair enough.
So next one is Bestia, which came out in 2021, and this is Oscar. This is an Oscar-nominated film. I don't know if it'll win. I haven't seen the other animated shorts. Summary. This one, I kind of had to write it because I didn't like any of them.
Okay.
Ingrid is an agent working as an interrogator in the Chilean Intelligence Directorate and has a close relationship with her dog. I couldn't write more.
Yeah. We're now entering the damn Germans in Chile part of this podcast.
Yes. This film was directed by Hugo Covarrubias. The screenplay was also by him, as well as Martín Erazo. Cinematography by him. Music by Ángela Acuña and Camilo Salinas. Production by Malesa Studio. The production companies were Malesa Studio and Trevo 3 as well. And then the producers themselves would be Teo Diaz and Cecilia Toro. Um, so yeah, what were your thoughts about this film?
This film is very striking. I don't know if I'm gonna rate it a whole lot more than Bear Story, which has like a nice simplicity to it, but this film has a lot more going on to it. And I'm glad that they kept it as a short, because I think this film, the tone it takes, would have been almost overbearing at a feature length. But it's a very affecting film that immediately had me trying to figure out the background as soon as the film was over. So I read a bit about it, and it makes sense given. But after I watched, I watched Wolf House first, and I watched the second. After watching Wolf House, I did not expect another one to be quite so dark as that one, and this one gives it a run for its money for sure. Very interesting animation style too. It's quite different and looks good. It also feels just very, very controlled, everything that they set up. So you can feel that they just storyboarded everything, and this is not a loosey-goosey thing. And I suppose in an animated film, it's always going to be that way. Mm-hmm. But it has that kind of like very exacting, precise feel to it that you get from certain filmmakers.
Right. I completely agree. This is a stop motion film. I forgot to mention that. So a very different style of animation for sure. Ingrid, I mean, to give a more detailed description, Ingrid was you are in the head, or you are with Ingrid, who is the torturer of the Chilean secret police, and although you rarely see any torture, it's implied that she kills a lot of people, and they do a really good job at that.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked about this was the actual designs of the characters. All of the characters were made with this porcelain style. I don't think it was actual porcelain, because probably doing stop motion with that would be a nightmare. But
it looks like porcelain.
But it looks like porcelain.
Yeah. It says based on the aesthetics of porcelain dolls. So not actually porcelain, but porcelain-like for sure.
And what's interesting about this is they do a really good job at representing a lot of with just claymation. I mean, this is Chile. It's like this one is, and so I watched this with my partner, and I did not tell her anything about it before watching it.
And you knew what it was about.
Oh, I knew what it was about, and she didn't.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is she loved the aesthetics, and she was loving everything. She loved the dog that she has and all that. And then there was a moment when she gets into the torture place, I was like, oh, by the way, this is for adults. And she's like, god damn it.
I mean, I almost feel like maybe this is just like coming from like an American perspective, but I feel like these animations that are very dark are almost like a total mindfuck for people that are just so used to animation being like so family friendly, because this one is very, very dark, and it's like if you go in with a certain set of expectations, this one just is totally gonna defy you in that way.
No, that's true. But what was interesting is that she has been in Chile, so like from the beginning, one observation she made was like, oh, this is so Chilean. But like by that she meant the how the lady was living, like all the little things she was doing, like the type of bread she was eating, the type of coffee, all that stuff. And the streets too, like they do a really good job design wise of creating the aesthetic of a Chilean house, a Chilean neighborhood. So within its, because it is highly stylized. It's animation after all, but within that stylization, they actually nail down probably what Chile looked like probably in the 80s.
Yeah, it's a lot of details in these things. It's not very simple. So I think even if you aren't a fan of the particular story, you can certainly admire some of the craft that goes behind this. But my reaction to this was like, as soon as like I was like, you see like the first couple shots, and then you see her like in that plane or whatever, and then you hear that score come in. I was like, oh, this one's gonna be some fucked up shit, isn't it? That was like my reaction, and yeah, it pretty much lived up to that.
Yeah, what were your thoughts about the music?
The music is extremely oppressive. Yeah, I mean, I feel about it kind of like I do the Spencer music. Kind of has that very A24 vibe to it. You don't really hear that. I think this is the first time I've heard anything even close to that sort of music used in an animated film. So it's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, it told me at least, kind of clued me in of what was in store as it started. I was like, oh yeah, it's a woman flying in a plane, hear that plane sound, but this is going to be in some messed up movie. And yeah, it did not disappoint in that sense.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, no, I thought the music was great to set up the mood. It definitely puts you uneased. It's also weird how this film is like centered in her, like in her character. I mean, she's the only character we see, and you know she's doing terrible stuff, but you're kind of curious, like, well, it almost makes you wonder, like, what makes her frustrated. So she's so expressionless in most of the film, except for when she gets demoted.
Yeah. But you know she's messed up in the head as soon as you like see her imagination chopping off the head of a dog.
Yeah. Although, yeah, no, for sure. Well, and then there's the part where they straight up like hint at Nazis, that she has like a Nazi background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't trust those Germans that came over after World War II.
No, you can't. Especially if they're working with a dictatorship. Yeah. So on this one, at least according to Wikipedia, one detail that this film has is that it begins with her on an airplane, looking at the mountains, which it will be the view of if you ever go to Chile. It's just the mountains, and she's broken, like the porcelain piece has a hole in it, and then of course it ends with her getting shot. And that explains the hole with her. And I think the idea was to sort of say, to show that, I mean, the hole was sort of describing what Chile is still today. Like, it's a country that is still, in a way, despite it being in democracy and everything, it's still broken. Within there's still that hate, that and resentment at the same time, within all factions, and for what happened.
Right. I mean, like Pinochet and all of that stuff. It's like really quite recent history too. So much so that it's like everyone at this point, most people that are alive, will have some opinion, or their parents will have an opinion of it if you are connected to Chile. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah, no, of course. And I mean, if you survive torture during that era, if you were lucky to survive, you definitely remember that. And yeah, one thing which is, I don't know if there are any Chilean audiences listening to this, to our podcast. So I think I sometimes, whenever I bring Chilean films, I once in a while bring Pinochet stuff. And in Chile, I know that there's a common complaint that a lot of Chilean films are made about Pinochet, about the dictatorship. I mean, I agree in part that maybe that's annoying, but on the other hand, I think just like we see lots of films about the Holocaust even today, even though it's been now how many years? Like 80 years since the Holocaust.
Yeah, 80 years. Yeah.
It's something that you kind of have to just keep on doing. You have to keep on processing it, because it's something you can't forget. It's something that happened, and as you said it yourself, most folks who lived in that era are still alive.
Right. And I mean, like, all three of these films focus on different aspects of that era, and all three are very unique and different from one another. So, I mean, like, as long as you're saying something unique and different and bringing something else to the table, I mean, like, I think that's good.
Yeah.
And I will also wanted to add on a lighter note that Google Translate continues to be part of the Chilean resistance against Pinochet by translating his name into penis.
Excellent. I wonder how many people use caption. I wonder if there's such thing as caption for the podcast. And you see that?
I don't know. Maybe on. I think it probably depends on what you're using to listen to it, but maybe Spotify or something would have that.
Yeah. But yeah. So do you have any final thoughts on this?
Not really. I was just really happy with the length here. Like, I don't think I could have taken a feature length. I think I would have felt very similar to this as I felt about Spencer. I think the length is perfect for something as dark and depressing as this film.
Yeah, I think lengthwise, I think it's a good length. I mean, by the way, both of this first two movies are silent, or there's no dialogue. So
yes.
It's hard to do something without dialogue that is not too long. That could go longer than 17 minutes. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think if it was much longer, it would be difficult. Apparently, the original idea for this actually was I think the director's original idea is he wanted to do a bunch of shorts based on different infamous torturers. Because there was a woman, I think, Alejandra Matus. I think she wrote a book based on reports of different memorable folks who tortured their people, which is fucked. It's fucked up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's good to
I'm a professor of torture. Jesus.
Yeah. And I guess the original idea was to make an animated short for each of them, to have like one episode for each.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been interesting. In a way, I don't know if I would want to watch that. But
no, I don't think I would have. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad I watched this.
Yeah. By the way, she survived that shot. You know that? Oh, yeah. You read that?
I did. It's hard to find exact information. So yeah, I was like, okay, interesting. I didn't know she survived it. Okay.
Yeah, because she got shot still during the dictatorship, and then she survived. The dictatorship blamed it on leftist insurgents or whatever, and she instead was saying that it was one of the cops, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, but you got shot in the head, so you wouldn't know." And she lived until like 2001, right before they started prosecuting people, because it took until almost no one got prosecuted until the 2000s.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering what the timeline was because I did see she had died in 2001. So yeah.
Yeah. No. So yeah, she impunity for sure on her side. And it's fucked up that she used her dog in her tortures.
Oh yeah, very messed up.
Anyway,
so did your partner like the film?
Well, there was a moment where she was like, "What the fuck?" And which actually was a moment with me too. I was like, "Oh no!" I think you probably know which one that is.
When they chop off the head of the dog, or
no, what she does with the dog at night.
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay. I'm surprised that she lasted that long before she was like, "What the fuck?" But yes, I was like, "Oh, we're going there."
Yeah, I was surprised, which I think it's I think it's to portray like her insecurity. Like, I mean, she's a normal kind of fucked up, but also normal person with normal insecurities, but also a torturer. Anyways, yeah, what do you give it?
Man, I think I talked myself up to an 8. Yeah, I mean, in terms of craft and stuff, it's very well done. Did I enjoy this? I enjoyed the art of it, but yeah, it's the subject matter is just so grim that it's a hard watch.
It is a hard watch. Actually, I didn't think it was that much of a hard watch, but yeah, I give it an 8.5. I don't think I would watch if it was a whole feature film about torturers. I wouldn't like that, but 8.5 I think is what I give it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now we are going into our last one.
Yep.
The Wolf House, or in Spanish, La Casa Lobo. All right, I got this summary from IMDb. By the way, this is probably this was almost a feature film, or is it considered a feature film?
I don't know. It's kind of in that really in between area where it's over an hour, but not much.
Yeah. Anyways, tells the story of Maria, a young woman who takes refuge in a house in southern Chile after escaping from a German colony. We both watched this film twice.
Yep.
Well, what are your thoughts?
So I like this film considerably more the second time around. I think this is a film that benefits because it's so indirect in how it approaches the matter, that if you're not Chilean or not familiar with the history, that I think having the background and the context to it does considerably help too. The pacing of the film is also a little bit slow at points. If my common criticism, and I'm probably sound like a broken record by now, is that I think stuff should be shorter. I think this probably should have been 10 minutes, 15 minutes shorter. That's my personal point of view. That being said, I was because I knew the way that this film was paced, I watched it. Usually I'm at my most alert in the morning, so I did some work and I was able to bang this film out in the morning yesterday when I was just at full attention, and I think it really benefited from that because visually it is very stunning. Just all of it is just like extremely well done. But I do think it is a little bit long in the tooth there in the last third or so. So yeah, I think it's quite good.
Yeah, it's funny. The first time I watched it, I liked it more than the second time. And that perhaps is because I watched it in the morning. The second time I watched it at night. So interesting how if you watch it in the morning with full attention, I think it is true that you get to appreciate the craft.
Yeah. This is not like a blockbuster, or this is not like a movie that's just gonna keep you up like Mad Max Fury Road or something. It's like it is like watching art to some extent, and I mean, it's worthy in that sense, absolutely. But it's not going to be something that's going to give you like a nice caffeine jolt.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably as art house as we've gotten.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
Unlike the other one, this one has, narratively speaking, a very doesn't quite have a plot, or the plot goes a little bit deeper than this. I think it's basically a woman takes a girl from Colonia Dignidad takes a bunch pigs out of the area, and to avoid punishment she hides in a random house in the south.
Right.
And then you don't get to see any of that. That's explained to you in writing, and then the rest is just being in her head.
Yeah, and this film plays around a lot with perspective. The other two films are very clear and concise on what they're trying to show. This film plays around with perspective, where we're shifting between her and the wolf's perspective, who is one of the German phonetics, basically. And so it messes around with that. We also really get into her head and her imagination and what she's seeing. And so it plays a lot around with like surrealism and stuff like that. So like we see some really stunning transformations of pigs into humans and humans into pigs that are really well handled. But it's also a film where I think of these three, it's the most likely we're like, okay, what the fuck is happening right now? And like not totally understanding what is going on.
Yeah, and with this film has very little music. Instead, it relies heavily on the sounds, which are all very eerie, right? Between the movements of chairs, movement of almost. I mean, one thing about the animation is that you're seeing the animation like being created as it's happening, or that's the effect at least that is created. So it's. If a drawing comes in, you see that as the drawing is happening, and you have this like fast-paced pencil sound, and same with the paper mache figures that are created on and off. So you have that sound as well as the ambient sound, and that's all very eerie in the environment that you're in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they do a great job with the sound design. And it just helps to create that sensorial experience, I think, a bit more. It's doing the work in here that the score of Bestia is doing there.
Exactly. I mean, there's a couple songs once in a while, which are, I don't know what the fuck they're saying because they're in German, and most of the time they don't give subtitles on the songs.
Yeah.
But it's creepy. They're always creepy.
Yeah. I mean, even if you don't understand what's going on in the film, you do understand sort of like the tone and the tenor it's trying to take, just through kind of the atmosphere. Because the film is just very, very atmospheric. I'd say both of these last two films are very atmospheric.
Yeah, and I mean this one is fully relies on atmosphere. I'm curious on the first time you watched it and then versus the second time. What was your thought of the introduction, like how the film was introduced as within this propaganda video?
So because I knew what the film was going for the second time, I immediately was able to latch onto it. Whereas the first time I was like, okay, you're just not totally sure what to make of it initially. Because you had told me about Germans and like the colony and stuff like that. I assume we're gonna do a double bill next time with the Emma Watson film. Yeah. No. But I'm kidding. But
Colonia.
So I felt like I had half of the puzzle pieces last time, and I was like trying to put them together in my head. And this time I just felt like I knew what it was going for, and I liked the sort of like irony of having it narrated by basically the wolf or the villain in the story during various parts here, and it kind of really shows that sort of interdependence that Maria has, how she needs to rely on the wolf for like her basic necessities, and how it kind of has that very ironic sad twist at the end where she basically goes back to the wolf. It kind of just shows how the abusive relationship between them works, in the sense that like treats her very poorly, but she is still totally reliant on him in order to survive. Yeah,
no, for sure. By the way, did you read the specs for this one? The director and all that?
No, you didn't.
Oh crap! All right, so quick credits to director Cristóbal León and Joaquín Cosina. Screenplay, same, plus Alejandra Moffat. Cinematography, Leon and Cosina again. Production, Diluvio and Globo Rojo. Producers, Catalina Vergara and Niles Atala. Anyways, sorry, I just wanted to throw that in. But yes, it's interesting. I wonder if, when you hear the wolf's voice, which from some places I've read that it's maybe supposed to be Paul Shepard, who was the leader of the cult.
That's what I interpreted it as most likely being, but
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's ambiguous.
I was curious if maybe the voice that you hear once in a while is just his voice in her mind. The entire, because I feel like you're in her mind the entire time.
Perhaps. Yeah, I guess we don't totally know, do we? I mean, it's one of those films.
Yeah, and herself is, I mean, because the main character Maria, she seems like might be a teenager or maybe an adult. We don't know, but what we know is that like the way she thinks is very very childlike.
Mm-hmm.
Naming her pigs. Granted, her pigs become people, although we don't know that. You're in her head.
I mean, presumably her pigs don't actually become people. I assume that's in her head.
Right. And she burns the pigs, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's the other thing that is very striking with the animation is how it flows from being drawings on a wall to forming 3D or real objects, and it goes back and forth, whether it's the pigs, whether it's Maria, and it's just it's just interesting to watch. Like, there are moments where the colors are changing on their clothing, or they're incomplete and they're being completed as they're already being animated. The level of work is just huge.
Yeah, no, it's really well done, and I mean, like, because of the style of animation too, you can almost like feel the different textures and like the way that it uses color and just has stuff shift and transform. It is quite uniquely visually stunning. It's definitely my favorite look of all of them. I'm curious, did your partner watch this too? I'd be curious what she made of it, just as
No,
like,
we
art
didn't.
piece.
No, this one I wanted to watch with her, but didn't have time, and also this one, even though the other one is darker in a way, I feel like this one is more like nightmare inducing.
It's also longer, so it's like, if this is boring, then you have to sit through a lot of it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Another thing I like too is like the way that the film tonally switches between kind of like that fake idyllic stuff that you get in the beginning, and when we hear Paul Shepherd or whoever the Whoop's voice is, and then it shifts to kind of like the reality that's very dark, or we shift from like her imagination and sort of like the idyllic world she's creating with the two pigs there, and then we see like this very, very shabby looking house and stuff like that. So I like the way that it kind of like morphs like those more idealistic dreams into the darkness that is reality.
Yeah, I agree. And the reality is always... Sometimes the reality is more calming, though, than the dreams. Like, there are moments... Because the dreams usually have warm colors. But there are moments where... and sometimes they even have those, like, German songs. Maybe she's singing. Maybe the pigs are singing. And those moments sometimes, I don't know, they're eerie to me. Even though you have very warm colors and complete images.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if folks have not, do not know much about the background, just to give a quick thing, if someone's listening, have not seen it and want to watch it, the background is, which is not at all in the movie, but it was helpful for James. It was helpful for you to know, right? Is basically there's until the 90s. This should last until the 90s. There was a community of German people living in southern Chile, and they were basically a cult. And during the Pinochet era, they helped Pinochet, and there was a torture camp. So they would actually help kidnapping people and all that stuff, and they keep them in there. And then after Pinochet, they still kidnap people. So they had their community, which were all Germans, like nice white blonde and everything. And then they would kidnap Chileans, which are not necessarily which are Hispanics.
Yeah, and like the blonde nature of like the people, the animation that we see here is because they are German. So they have that kind of very stereotypical German look to them. But yes, if you're also wondering how that ties into Pinochet, Iñaki just explained it too. Because this one, you might be like, how does this relate to like the dictatorship of Pinochet? And there you go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, in the 90s, so when I lived in Chile, we did not know that tie. That came out like after I moved from Chile. But what we did know was because that's when all the criminal cases started happening due to the atrocities that were happening in there. So one of the main atrocities was that Paul Schaeffer, the head of this community, who used to be a Nazi during the Nazi Vietnam, during the Nazi Germany period. He would basically have sex with all the children in the community.
Yeah.
All of them, I think. And he was sort of a community leader, a religious leader, and a rapist, and a torturer, and all of this under very Christian ideas too.
Yeah. So in other words, if you liked Encanto, watch this movie.
There's music in both.
Yeah. So I'm guessing the honey was also quite famous. Just the way it's portrayed here. Okay.
I mean, honey from southern Chile is big everywhere in general. Because southern Chile is very just known for like rural cold weather stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know if honey from Colonia Dignidad was necessarily good, but honey was a big deal, I guess, within the community. Or maybe it's
yeah. Were these guys like the blonde guys selling honey at the farmers market?
Maybe.
Okay.
No. I mean, what's kind of crazy is that once in a while people would escape and try to denounce everything that's happening. But during the Pinochet era, no one would listen to them because Paul Schaeffer was with Pinochet. But then in the 90s, then people were started escaping and go to nearby hospitals and all that. And what was interesting was like within those communities, they only spoke German, which made it even harder for folks to communicate, because they would leave those communities and go into, like, let's say, a hospital in the nearby town, and they would be speaking in German and everyone speaks Spanish, and they're like, I don't understand.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, little did they know too that like 20 years after this, like they'd make a movie with Emma Watson and Daniel Pearl. Yeah.
Oh man. What's fucked up? I mean, this is now outside the movie, but what's fucked up about my culture is that we have very dark humor. So when all of this came to light, the molesting children and all that, there was a TV show that would make skits, and they made a skit of the German place in Chile is called Dignity Colony. So they made a skit where there was a Chilean colony in Spain called Indignity Colony, and the leader would rape old ladies. And that's the joke. That was the entire joke. But
well, I might say how messed up I am that I laughed at that too. So
yeah, but yeah, that's how you understand. Maybe you can understand why I'm fucked.
That's probably why we get along.
But yeah. Anyways, no, but more realistically, it's a horrible thing that happened, and guess what? a lot of folks, when they started prosecuting in Chile, a lot of those German folks went back to Germany, and Germany doesn't want to extradite them back to Chile.
Great. So all of the best people are just ping ponging between South America and Germany.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, back to the movie. What would you rate this?
I give this a solid 8. I think it's quite a good film. Again, its subject matter is a little bit grim, but just like Bestia in particular, you can really appreciate the craft and the really unique look that this movie has. I think it's a little bit long. Would have cut some stuff, but I don't know. It's all visually quite stunning.
Yeah, no, I give this a solid 8 as well. I think as abstract as this film is, it does an amazing job basically getting into the mind of the main character and living her nightmare. It also, yeah, it's just, I mean, this one is in Shudder, and it makes sense. It feels like this is a horror movie.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Nope. Nope. I think all three films were quite good. And quite different from each other. So, if you are interested, you should check them all out.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Wolf House, as I said before, is in Shudder. The other two, you would have to rent them or purchase them, or do whatever else. I'm not gonna say whatever else, but yeah, they're available.
Yeah, they are.
All right. Do we know what we're watching next?
Yeah, we're going back to Argento land for what many people consider his last great film, Opera.
Opera. So back to Italy.
Yeah, I think that one's set in Italy. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Perfect. Well, anyways, if you have any ideas for, episodes or films, or if, we got anything wrong, I could get things wrong too. You can email us at cafilmtofilm@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at cafilmtofilm. And in both cases, it's the 2 is with the number 2.
Yes, correct.
And also, you can also rate us at whatever thing, if you're wherever you listen to the podcast allows you to rate people.
Yeah, give us 5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. All right.
Yeah, we will see you all next time.
See you next time.
Adios.
Ciao.